Reed Richards' Pilates instructor asked him how flexible he was. He said he could do Mondays or Thursdays. Welcome to today's Comic Book Editions video. All of this came home and got added into my collection from a comic book show I attended last month, and I spent $20. We're going to go through this haul today and share some great and fun things with you. I'm happy that you're here for it. By the way, if you're new to my channel and haven't subscribed yet, it's a great way to show support. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. It's great to have you back. If you're a new viewer, I hope you like what I'm showing enough or have on my channel already to show some support by subscribing and help me get to my goal of 1K for subscribers. The algorithm loves it when you give this video a thumbs up, a heart, and a like, and I love reading your comments. I'm going to be asking at the end of the video what your favorite thing was that I showed out of all of the books that I'm sharing today. So pay attention. Once again, it's great to have you here. Let's get started. Last month on a Saturday, there was a brand new comic show less than 15 miles away from me. I had to work that day, but I decided to check it out after, even though, believe it or not, and this is a little shocking, that day I really wasn't in the mood to buy comic books. I know you're probably rewinding to make sure that you heard what I said. It's true. I certainly got in the mood to buy comic books when I got there. There was less than 90 minutes left of the show by the time I finished work and got there, but I certainly made the most out of those 90 minutes and had a lot of fun. Here's some of my haul from that, specifically the dollar bin books. That's what I'm going to share today. And when I go to a show, I'm always curious, what's that first book that's going to make me pull the trigger and say, yeah, I'm going to start buying from this seller. And in this instance, it was this book from 1981. This is Fantastic Four, Volume 1, issue number 229. I know there's Bill Sienkiewicz fans in the comic book community, but did you know this is early Bill Sienkiewicz? Yeah, so early he hadn't even developed that abstract style of artwork. I like his regular comic book artwork. I might even like it a little bit more than the abstract stuff that he's known for, but I do give him props and credit for being an original, for having his own vision and style and voice in his artwork. But yeah, this is early Bill Sienkiewicz. You know that Alicia Masters, the sculptress that the Thing dates, in page 1 of the story, you see some statues that she's been working on in the background, and one of them is a Jim Shooter statue. It even said Shooter on the bottom of it. So he got a nice little nod in the beginning of this FF story. I kept going with some more Fantastic Four. This is issue number 310, 1987. Creative team Keith Pollard as the artist and Steve Englehart as the writer. By this point, the core Fantastic Four team was Thing, Human Torch, Crystal, and then Ms. Marvel. Not Carol Danvers' Ms. Marvel, but the wrestler Sharon Ventura, Ms. Marvel, who in this issue gets turned into She-Thing. So this is the first appearance of She-Thing. And also Thing Ben Grimm ends up getting a little bit more, he evolves a little bit more during the course of this story. So this is a little minor key for those reasons. I know some people even forgot that there was a Ms. Marvel between Carol Danvers and Camilla Khan, but there was, and she ended up as a member of the FF and a potential Ben Grimm love interest too. Same creative team for issue number 311, also from 1987. We have the Black Panther back in this issue, and not only is T'Challa back, but so is Dr. Doom. So all of these books that I pulled out were from the same seller. This comic show advertised over 70 long boxes would be there, and they were truthful in their advertising for that. I didn't even have enough time to get to every stand to look through every comic box, but I did buy this one particular seller, which is the books that I'm showing today. Nothing was in alphabetical order. I mean, sometimes there would be like a group of Fantastic Four books kind of put together, but nothing was in alphabetical order. There were tons of long boxes, and usually that can be a deterrent for me, something that makes me go, I don't know if I want to do this, because I think sometimes there's a reputation that you're not going to find anything good in a dollar bin box, but I certainly was wrong. This one I bought Shirley because I was curious about the story. I certainly liked the cover, and I've been aware of this cover, but I wasn't really planning on buying this issue. I'm so glad I did. This is issue number 332, where in 1989, Rich Buckler is the artist for this. Steve Englehart is still writing, but at this time, he is very unhappy with some editorial decisions that have been forced upon him. So he credited himself as John Harkness as the writer for this issue. I really ended up loving this issue. There's a throwback to Fantastic Four number 245, which is where we get an adult Franklin Richards for the very first time. We have Invisible Woman versus Crystal. It's interesting. Spoiler, this is all kind of a dream sequence. And it is Crystal, the one who is kind of threatening Sue on the cover. But it was this cover, I'm like, it's a buck. I'm not going to leave this book here, which is in such great condition, for a buck when I could read it and get at least $1 enjoyment out of it. So this was a smart decision for me to pick up. Got some DC for you too. We will alternate a little bit between some DCs and some Marvels throughout this video. Adventure Comics issue 441. This is 1975. By this point, Aquaman's Bronze Age title was canceled due to the big DC implosion. So they moved him over to be the headliner for Adventure comic books. Jim Aparo doing the cover, Paul Levitz, the writer. Really good cover too. I like the dramatic Mera laying there. And that is Captain Demo. It's Captain Demo's very first appearance. Not that he became that big of a DC villain or character or anything. In addition to the Aquaman story, there's a backup with the Star Spangled Kid, Seven Soldiers of Victory. This was the 5th and final part of an original unpublished Golden Age story from back in the day, and it definitely read like a Golden Age story. It definitely did. So, yeah, I think you understand what I mean when I say that. It lived up to being a Golden Age story. So this next book actually was one that I was looking for and almost had purchased a couple times, one online and one at a different comic book store in the area. I'm so glad I didn't, because now I've got my own copy. This is Adventure Comics number 452. Originally, it was published in 1977, but this is the version that was an exclusive for the Legion of Comic Collectors. That was a subscription box, and they put up their own little Funko original cover on this in 2017. And the story is key because this is the issue where Aquababy dies and gets killed by Black Manta, and it's still in its original sealed cellophane. And usually I see this book a lot more than $1. I usually see it around the $5 to $6 range when I find this book, either in the wild or online. So I'm very glad that I held out before, and very glad that I saw this opportunity and said, yep, going to get this one this time. I also have the Legion of Comic Collectors version of New Teen Titans number 1. That has its own exclusive cover. This era of the Defenders is interesting to me. I am very lazily trying to put together a collection of Volume 1 of the Defenders, and I say very lazily because I haven't been focusing a whole lot on it. Now we have a team that consists, of Beast and Angel, and we have Gargoyle and Valkyrie and Iceman. So we have a couple members of the Champions there who had been long since disbanded and their book long since gone now, part of the Defenders. Sometimes I think I mentioned this just a little bit ago, that when I go through the dollar bin books, I'm like, you can't find anything good or anything that you want in the dollar bin books, especially when they're all messed up, and it just creates like anxiety and stress. But I ended up having so much fun just going through and finding stuff. And they had books, as you can see already, they had books from the Bronze Age to modern age. And that's what impressed me. And that was good for me to see, to be like, don't always give up on the dollar bins thinking you're not going to find anything that you like in the dollar bins, because sometimes you can, which is evident today. This is a book I had been interested in. DC did a series of these one-shots in the year 2000 called Silver Age. I had forgotten about this until I started reading these stories, that they were all kind of interconnected. This is the Doom Patrol Silver Age one-shot. Ramona Fradon, the great Ramona Fradon, did the cover for this, which is so appropriate. I love the cover too. These stories all kind of interwove one into the other, and if I did know that, I had forgotten that because I didn't have any of them in my collection. They didn't do a Silver Age Wonder Woman, but the general basis sounds like a Silver Age story where the villains and the heroes have switched minds. So the minds of the villains are in the bodies of the heroes and vice versa. Oh, speaking of Doom Patrol, before I get off this topic real fast, I see that DC has a Silver Age omnibus of Doom Patrol, and they're also coming out with 2 volumes of reprints of that in their DC's Finest line. I might end up getting those because I do like me some Doom Patrol. Here's another one from this line. I don't think that they had the full line of the one-shots here, but we have an awesome Nick Cardy cover. So I love that they went back to some of the original artists that were associated with the Silver Age, the ones back in the year 2000 that were still with us, and got them to do something. Marv Wolfman was a writer, and while you associate Marv Wolfman with New Teen Titans, rightfully so, Marv Wolfman actually did write some issues of the original Volume 1 Teen Titans run, if you didn't know that. And we, later on in the video, will see a little bit of New Teen Titans. We'll kind of circle back to that. But in this case, you know, we have the Teen Titans fighting the villains, although they're unaware that it's the heroes whose minds are in the villains. So when they fight Penguin, they're really fighting Batman. When they fight Black Manta, they're really fighting Aquaman. And when they fight Mr. Element, they're really fighting the Flash. Here's the Justice League one. I just thought for the funsies of it, I should pick up. Ty Templeton did the cover for this. Scott Collins did the interior artwork, and then Mark Millar was the writer. So we have Black Manta, Catwoman, Kronos, Dr. Light, Felix Faust, Lex Luthor, Mr. Element, Penguin, and Sinestro. I was kind of hoping they would have the one-shots that were the DC retroactive one-shots where they did the 1970s and the 1980s. I didn't see them in these bins. I saw some of the Convergence titles, but I was hoping I'd find those retroactive ones because I have the retroactive Wonder Woman, but I'd like to get the retroactive Justice League and maybe a couple other titles too. You know, supposedly untold stories from that era. You take what you can find though, and no complaints. This Justice League of America book does not count in my JLA goal list. You know, I'm down to 5 that I need. Only 5. Wow. Because I already had this book. This was just an upgrade. And I have to say the condition on so many of these books for a dollar bin was fantastic. It had been a minute since I had reread this story, but definitely enjoyed it. 1981, Rich Buckler doing the cover, Jerry Conway, the writer. In this issue, the Key has brought Amazo back, and they start essentially siphoning and stealing the powers of the Justice League members. It's just a one-issue story. That's the full storyline is all self-contained in this one book. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I also feel there's nothing wrong with take as many issues as you need to take to tell a great story. But if one issue is all you need, then that's fine too. And that's what happened with this one. Good cover. Show some love for the Avengers, specifically the West Coast Avengers. I thought this cover was awesome, and that's why I decided to pick it up. It's West Coast Avengers number 34, right? 1988, Al Milgrom did this cover. He certainly is able to fit in a lot of characters all at once. Steve Englehart is the writer. This is at the time that Quicksilver had essentially gone mad. And not only is he mad, he's arrogant. He seems even more arrogant than his father. And he's been attacking the different heroes, and here he's gone from being an Avenger to attacking the Avengers. Just thought this was a good cover in a book that I was always curious to read. So why not throw out a buck and enjoy it, right? That's what I said. Why not? Another West Coast Avengers that I wanted to pick up was issue number 43. By this time, John Byrne was the creative team doing literally everything like Byrne likes to do when he gets involved with the title for this. This is part of the Vision Quest storyline, 1988. So the previous book was earlier in 88, this book towards the end of 88. It blows my mind to think that the White Vision book from West Coast Avengers at one time during the WandaVision peak was selling for more money than Vision's first appearance in Avengers 57. I don't have either. I would love to have both. So maybe someday that's a goal that I can accomplish. A great, awesome cover too. I know that John Byrne's a Scarlet Witch fan. You can just tell because he likes using Wanda in a lot of his different Marvel projects. Here's a West Coast Avengers annual. This is annual number 4, still John Byrne as the creative team, 1989. There's part of this story where the ladies of the West Coast Avengers are ranking the hunkiest Avengers that have been. I bought this originally because at first I thought there was a comic book or a story that I read, a regular Avengers story that continued in a West Coast Avengers annual that I didn't have. And at first I thought it was this one, but now I think it might have been the annual 3. But regardless, I look at this cover and I'm such a fan of the female characters. And we got Jean Grey and the Invisible Woman and She-Hulk and Storm and Dagger among others. And I'm like, why would I even hesitate in putting this into my collection, especially for $1? Why would I do that? So it makes no sense not to do it, so that's why I did it. This cover is one that I kind of wanted for a while. I haven't read this yet, but I've been curious to read this. I used to see this comic book, a specific version of this comic book, the Whitman version of it. And even though this isn't the Whitman version, I'm still like, yeah, I'll get it. So because it brings back memories and it's a story I want to read and I think it's a great cover. This is Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, issue number 257. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the second to last issue of this run. 1979 at this point, Dick Giordano doing the cover. Joe Staton is the interior artist, Jerry Conway as the writer. And I always thought Saturn Girl's little pink bikini type costume was a cool costume. At least color-wise, unlike any other female character's costume. So there was one book that I thought, oh, it would be pretty awesome if I could find this in the dollar bin. And I did. It was this book. This is Infinity Inc. number 4. I already had this book. I wanted another copy of this book. Jerry Ordway did the cover. Roy Thomas and Danny Thomas were the writers of this. This is part of the Generation Saga, and the Generation Saga lasts the first 10 issues of Infinity Inc. I think that storyline is so good. I do. I've reread that many times and enjoyed it every time that I've read it. I actually mentioned this cover not that long ago in my Comic Book Editions Volume 228 video when I received an AOK from Bronze Age Brian. And there was a Jerry Ordway Shazam cover that I said that it reminded me so much of this Infinity Inc. cover. And the reason I said I already had it, it's my favorite Jerry Ordway cover, actually. But the reason I wanted another one, I would at some point want to make it a goal to get this cover signed by Jerry Ordway. Even if I can't do it, maybe one of my friends in the community will see Jerry Ordway at an event and I can send it there and they can get it signed on my behalf. But that's why I wanted to pick up another copy. That was my goal. Oh, also in the story, too, that I thought was kind of cool, they took and incorporated Hawkman's story from Flash Comics number 71, way back in the Golden Age, into the events of this story. Because this is a period story that takes place on Earth, too. Has some X Factor. I had stopped my original run of X Factor at issue 17. This is issue 18. So I thought, let's just go at least one more issue and see what happens. Walt Simonson covered, an interior artist. Louise Simonson, his wife, is the writer, 1987 for this. Cyclops has issues in this story, to say the least, but I don't know if I should feel bad for him or not. And essentially, Jean Grey has had enough of him, and she's had enough of his you-know-what, and lets him have it a little bit. I think a little bit deservingly so. And I kind of feel bad for Jean, too, Because you got to remember, this isn't all that long after she was brought back from the dead, and we find out that the Phoenix Force wasn't really her. It was an entity that, kind of made a duplicate and left her, for dead in a cocoon in the river. So I don't know if I'm going to get the rest of the X Factors. Probably not. I was hoping that, well, they did have some X-Men Hidden Years, and I came close to buying some of those. They didn't have the full run. And I think I don't know. I don't know if I should get the floppies if I can find them again in a dollar bin, or if I should just try to get like a trade or an omnibus of X-Men The Hidden Years, which I've read. I think I kind of want to have a copy of that. I don't know. Stay tuned. I guess the future will tell what I end up deciding to do about that. Justice, issue number 5 from 2006, a classic Alex Ross Wonder Woman in Cheetah cover, which I love. This issue also had second and third printings of it that all had different covers on this. Recently, I showed this on a comic book editions video. I picked it up at a local comic shop, and I have a hardcover of this that Mr. Fridgeart gifted me, which I was very appreciative of, and I love the story. But I thought this was such a classic Wonder Woman cover that I wanted to get it. And then when I saw this book in the dollar bin, first I thought, well, shoot, because I didn't pay paid much more than $1 for it when I bought it at the LCS, and this is in as good of condition, if not better. But I thought, I'm not going to leave it here. Have an extra copy of it. It's all good. It's all fine. And that's what I decided to do. I mentioned that I was going to show some new Teen Titans, and I'm going to. This was an upgrade for me. So this is something that I had in my collection already, Tales of the Teen Titans, Volume 1, Issue 1. This is a 4-issue limited series where they essentially finally gave us the origins of the 4 newer Teen Titans characters that they created for this run. Cyborg, Raven, Changeling, aka Beast Boy, and Starfire. I have all 4 of those. I just wanted to upgrade my copies of it, which is why I picked this up. Wolfman Perez goodness. But originally, I'm looking at this and I'm like, it looks like there's another copy of the same book in that same bag. And I opened it, when I got home, I opened it up and there wasn't just one more copy of it in the same bag. There was 2 more. So I ended up getting all 3 copies for $1. At first I thought I need to be honest and go and tell the seller because maybe he doesn't know that that's in there. But then as I was digging through, they had more of just the Cyborg one. They didn't have the other issues. They had more of the Cyborg one, and I could tell there were 3 or multiple 2 to 3 copies of the same issue in each one. So I guess he was just wanting to get rid of them and sell them as a lot. So that's why I didn't bother sharing that information with him. But I got hooked up, and I wouldn't mind upgrading my other copies that I have, especially if I can find them in this nice of condition in the dollar bin somewhere sometime in the future. And the final dollar bin book that I pulled at this event, and the final book that I pulled is literally, it was time to shut down the event, was this Forever Evil. This is from 2013. We have David Finch doing the cover and interior art. Jeff Johns is the writer. This all kicked off this huge Year of the Villain event at DC Comics. There is a really cool gateway fold-out this way and that way. So you get a 4-page spread of all of these villains that is done as an homage to Crisis on Infinite Earths. Signature King and I retro-reviewed the first 2 issues of Forever Evil on a previous Fanboys Live in the retro review, which was really cool and a bunch of fun. Getting issue number 1, which I was so psyched that I found this completes the miniseries for me. This was the only one that I ended up missing. And how I got started collecting this actually goes all the way back on my channel to a Comic Jabroni mystery box unboxing when he was selling mystery boxes to try to get his Grail comic book, which he ended up getting. And in my box, I got a bunch of Spectacular Spider-Man comics and some Forever Evil. And I've been working on both of those series to try to complete. Spectacular Spider-Man, I'm only going up to issue 126, and With the annuals, I'm like 5 issues away from completing that, and now I've completed Forever Evil. You can go all the way back to Comic Book Editions Volume 7 to see that original unboxing. And when I work on Spectacular Spider-Man and even this series too, although there weren't that many issues, it makes me think of Edwin. And it's kind of like, I know that when I would have gotten home from this comic show, I would have messaged him and said, guess what? I got the last issue that I needed from that set that I started because I bought your mystery box. And there's not a lot, I don't know. It's hard for me to put into words what I want to say. But it's a conversation I know that we would have had that day. 100% we would have had that. I would have gone home and told him that. I just know it. So it makes me feel closer to him. And it makes me feel good. So that one was for you, buddy. Hashtag Comic Jabroni Nation. Over 20 books, only spent $20 on those books that you saw today. What did you think? Did I do well? I think I did. I did buy a few other books that weren't dollar bin books that I'm showing in future comic book editions videos, but I just wanted to share that dollar bin haul because for dollar bin haul, I thought I did excellent. What was your favorite out of what I showed today? Leave me a comment below and let me know. Let me know if you're chasing any of these. Would love to find some of them in a dollar bin when you're on hunting, or if you have any of them already in your collection. Your comments are welcomed, encouraged, and appreciated. I mentioned Fanboys Live in the Retro Review. It's the greatest DC Comics show on YouTube, Sunday nights, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Central, on my YouTube channel with Signature King Tony Fett and Silver Hair Bronze Age Babe shows up pretty regularly. So look for that. My back issue of the week YouTube short dropped yesterday. It's about a comic book that's in my collection, just kind of breaking it down and talking about the gist of the story of it. So if you haven't checked that out yet, make sure to do so. There also is a back issue of the week playlist folder on my channel. That's brought you to the end of today's Comic Book Editions video, and thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. I think that you're awesome, and I hope you have a fantastic, happy, healthy, and successful week, and I'll catch you soon. Until then, take care.